And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Power Podcast. Tonight, we're covering Raw from Monday, August 22nd, the day after SummerSlam. So let's jump right into it. So we start off the show, Mick Foley and Stephanie are in the ring, and they call Finn Balor down, or Finn Balor comes out to the ring. And Finn has to relinquish the title due to an injury he suffered at SummerSlam. Now, I'm going to get into that a little later about the injury itself. So anyhow, he relinquishes the title. He's heading back up the ramp. Seth Rollins comes out, gives him a smile, the bad guy thing. And he gets to the ring, and all of a sudden you got Sami, Jericho, Kevin Owens, Cass, Enzo, Roman Reigns. Everybody's in the ring, and they all kind of have this, we're all entitled, or we need a shot at the title now that it's been vacated. Rollins had been saying before everybody came out that he was the rightful heir to the title. So anyways, they announced they're going to have a series of matches, and the winners of, there's going to be, 4 matches, so 8 guys, and then the winners of each of those matches will go on to a fatal 4-way on next week's Raw, and the winner there will be the new Universal Champion. So let's jump into these matches. So the first one was Rollins versus Sami Zayn. Now there's a spot where Sami Zayn appears to roll his ankle. He does that one where he bounces off the rope and he kind of jumps backwards over the guy. And it appeared like he rolled his ankle. On the replay, it looked pretty bad. But later on in the match, Rollins is attacking his ankle. So I'm assuming it wasn't that bad if he can touch it. So anyhow, the match was actually pretty good. Zayn really sold the ankle injury. And Seth ends up winning and advancing after he hits the pedigree on Zayn. Next up, we got Kevin Owens versus Neville. And it's something about Neville watching him in the ring. The guy's just amazing. His flipping all over the place outside the ring onto Kevin Owens. And it kind of gave him the early advantage in the match. Jericho comes out, distracts Neville. KO, clotheslines Neville. Another distract by Jericho later on in the match, and KO hits Neville with I call it a torture rack neck breaker. And KO wins, and he advances into this tournament for the new title. Now, the New Day comes out, then the club comes out and interrupts them. Anderson is to fight Big E. They have a match. It was an all-right match. It was nothing spectacular. No really big spots. There's the 2 New Day guys teamed up on Gallows on the outside because Gallows was interfering. Like I keep saying, these guys are supposed to be the good guys, but they're 3-on-2, no matter who they're fighting. The bad guys are supposed to be the bad guys. Why are the good guys kind of being the bad guys when they're 3-on-2? So anyhow, Big E hits the big ending on Anderson and gets the win. That wasn't one of those championship matches. I should have announced that. That was just a regular match. Titus O'Neil's out in the ring. He calls Darren Young dead weight from their primetime player days. Calls out Young, but Bob Backlund comes out instead. The crowd it was funny because at that time, the crowd is cheering for Slater. They're all like, we want Slater, we want Slater. It's amazing that Heath Slater has become this big marquee player now. But his gimmick is good. His gimmick is really working right now. I'm kind of glad they broke up the, what were they called? Oh, great goodness. That he was with, I can't remember the guys that he was with anymore. Anyways, he was a social outcast. That's what it was. He was in that group, and I'm kind of glad he got away from them because he kind of stood out, but the other guys kind of, I don't know. So anyhow, Titus O'Neil is he's yicking and yakking. Bob comes out. And that wasn't the first. I had to mention that wasn't the first time that they had cheered for Slater. They actually cheered for him earlier on in the evening. So it's kind of nice to see that this guy's getting some exposure. So anyways, Bob comes out. He hits the chicken wing on Titus, but Titus kind of gets out of it pretty quick, and he slams Bob Backlund into the mat, does a body slam. Darren Young comes running out to help Bob, and that kind of ends that segment. It's like no one really seems to care about this Titus O'Neil and Darren Young and Bob Backlund thing, and it's a shame because they spent so much time on these Darren Young, make Darren Young greater again, and it's just not working. They may have to turn Bob and Darren heel. Who knows? That might work. Anyway, Stephanie's in the back, and she's saying something about there will be repercussions to what Brock did to Shane at SummerSlam. Next up is Rusev versus Big Cass. This is another title tournament match. The winner will advance to the Final Four. Cass is working the ribs of Rusev. He's still selling the ribs from the night before when Roman Reigns beat the snot out of him. Anyways, Rusev couldn't take it, and he just rolls out of the ring, and Big Cass gets the win via countout, so he advances. So it's kind of neat to see Big Cass getting a push, and he's getting put into this heavyweight title, or this universal title hunt. So you got Jericho next and KO bantering about next week's Fatal 4-Way, kind of like, what's going to happen kind of deal. So... But I do like Jericho and KO together, Jericho or whatever you want to call them. Anyway, Charlotte's in the ring next, and she's talking smack about Sasha. After she's done talking smack, she goes to leave the ring. Mick Foley comes out and announces a new woman's free agent has been signed, which turns out to be Bayley from NXT. So it's kind of funny, about a month or two ago during Battleground, she came out, and I kind of thought she was signed then. And the crowd reacted so big to her back then, they knew that they had to push her up. So I'm glad she's got it. She's up on the main roster now, so good for her. Anyways, Bayley challenges Charlotte for a match, but she ends up having to fight Dana Brooke on Raw that night. There was this odd spot when they were wrestling, Brooke and Bayley, and Bayley was kind of ramming Brooke's head into the turnbuckle, and Brooke's head was nowhere near the turnbuckle. She was trying to cover it up with her long hair, but you can clearly see, and you can see the camera cutting away going, oh crap, you can tell that her head's not in the turnbuckle, and they did about 5 or 6 of these. So, you need to work on that, Brooke. Your head has to actually kind of hit the turnbuckle. It's padded. You're not going to get hurt. So Bayley wins with her belly-to-Bayley suplex, and she gets the 1, 2, 3. Sheamus in the back next. He's talking about his best of 7 series with Cesaro. He's up. Now, it was one of the matches I missed on the pre-show. So Sheamus leads the best of 7, 1-0. Braun Strowman comes out, and he fights Johnny Knockout, and it's another useless squash match. I'm not even going to talk about it. It's a pain. It's a waste of time. Next up, the Dudley boys retire. Very surprising. I kind of thought they'd be around for another couple of years, but they only had a 1-year deal, and to be honest with you, they hadn't been used properly the past year. I think they just wanted to come back, retire. They'll probably be put into the Hall of Fame pretty quick. So they both had a couple nice speeches. Then the Shining Stars come out and kind of like, oh, come to where we're from and we'll have a good time and all this. So anyways, it was just a setup to get Dudleys to do one more 3D, what's up. And then they go get the tables, and out comes the club. And the club beats down the Dudley boys, and Bubba gets... the club puts Bubba through the magic killer through the table. And... Bubba gets the magic killer on the outside, and Devon gets it through the table. So, are they really retired, or are they going to do one more match with the club? Who knows? I'm like, it's kind of a weird way to retire getting your ass kicked. So, well, what can you do? Next up, the final match of the tournament, Jericho versus Roman Reigns. It was funny when Jericho came down to the ring. I made a note of this. Jericho comes down in the ring, and he's got the look on his face like he just smelt a fart. It's just priceless. Between the look on his face and that porn stash he's got, the guy's killing me. So the fans seem to be cheering on Jericho during the match, and I was kind of surprised because Roman Reigns in the past couple of weeks have been getting the fans have been behind him, but now they kind of like they're not behind him now. I don't know. The fans are pretty finicky. KO comes out, gets punched by Roman Reigns. Jericho gets the walls of Jericho on. Reigns ends up making it to the ropes. And when he does, KO super kicks him. And then Jericho hits the code breaker. But Reigns kicks out, which is a shame. Got hit by a couple finishers and he kicks out. Reigns hits the Superman punch on KO and then spears Jericho for the win. And he advances to the Final Four for the Universal title match next week. So you got Seth Rollins, Big Cass, KO, and now Roman Reigns will fight on the August 29th Raw to determine your new Universal Champion. Now, I just want to talk about, first off, Raw was not bad. It wasn't great, it wasn't bad. The matches for the Universal title were really good. I enjoyed those, I'll say that. And there wasn't that much talking this week. I don't know. Maybe they're listening. I don't know. But not a lot of talking, so it was enjoyable. But I wanted to go back to Finn Balor getting injured. Now, he got injured when, Rollins does the power bomb to the turnbuckle. Now, he did a power bomb to Finn on the outside, to the guardrail, or whatever you want to call it, where the fans are sitting. And anyways, when Finn got thrown, he turned his head to look where he was landing, hit his shoulder, popped the shoulder. If you rewatch the match, you can actually see the guy pop his shoulder back in. This guy is just tough as nails. Now, I've heard a lot of different people saying whose fault it was and yada, yada. Now, I'm not going to blame Rollins and I'm not going to blame Finn. I think it was an accident. It happens. It just seems like Rollins seems to be involved in a lot of these accidents in last year. Breaking John Cena's nose with a knee breaker or with a knee to the face. Sting getting injured at Night of Champions. I think it was Night of Champions last year. Even though Sting takes full responsibility for that, well, how can you take responsibility for it? You did the power bomb properly. You didn't even look to see where you were landing. Anyhow, then Finn looked. So I understand some people are saying, well, he shouldn't have been looking. He would have hit the padding proper. Not the point. I agree with that. And I think Dead on Dave, actually, I was watching his review of SummerSlam or Raw, and he mentions that. And he's right. Finn turned his head, and maybe he shouldn't have turned his head. It's not. I don't think the problem is who was at fault for this. It's a move that's injuring people. And if there's that 1% chance that somebody's going to get hurt with that particular move, 1 out of every 10 times, then maybe it should be removed. I don't know why they got rid of the curb stomper that Rollins did. Did somebody get injured? I don't know. But it's like they got rid of the sit-down tombstone that like Owen Hart did the Stone Cold. That move is gone. They're running Tiger Bomb or Power Bomb that D'Lo Brown used to do. That's no longer used. Unfortunately, all these moves can injure somebody. But this one has injured 2 people that we know of in the past year. So I don't know. It needs to be reviewed. Or maybe it shouldn't be done on the outside guardrail anymore. Or they should be practicing it. I know that it's obviously was set up as a spot. But when people are getting injured with a move frequently, and it's, to me, 2 people in a year, that's enough to raise an eyebrow. So that's just my opinion. So anyhow, that's my Raw review and my rant about the injury to Finn Balor. So until next time, take care.